Today we're going to talk about the differences between the Kiritsuke and the Gyuto. These shapes are very similar, obviously, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are wondering what are the differences, the advantages, disadvantages to each different shape. So today we are going to compare these two knives. We're going to touch on a bunch of different points, slicing, chopping, rocking motion, versatility, coolness factor, and we're going to give a mark, we're going to give the edge to one knife or the other for each of those categories, and then just kind of briefly touch on which one might be better for you depending on your usage habits. Okay, so the first category we're going to talk about is slicing. Now, while both of these knives are adept at slicing, they both perform at a very high level at this task, and you can use both of them for it, we have to give the edge to the Kiritsuke. The reason for this is because of the nice flat profile on the Kiritsuke. This flat profile allows the user to make really great contact with the board with the entirety of the edge of the knife as they come through on their slice. The flat profile also means that you don't have to tilt the knife up to make contact with the tip of the knife to the board, and this allows you to make a much nicer, cleaner cut every time. Okay, so the next category we're going to talk about is one of two cutting styles that we're going to talk about today, which is the rock chopping motion. Like we mentioned on the slicing category, the Kiritsuke has a very flat profile. This flat profile isn't going to lend itself as well to that rock style of chopping that the Gyuto performs really well at. The Gyuto typically has a nice gradual curve, a slight flat spot towards the heel, but curving nicely up towards the tip of the knife. This is going to allow you to use that natural curve of the blade to perform that rocking motion really well. So if you prefer that rocking motion, Gyuto is the way to go. Okay, so next we'll talk about the second of the two chopping styles, and that being the up and down, push and or pull chopping motion. Now this one is super close, but we're going to have to give it to the Kiritsuke. Again, that flat profile, making good contact with the entirety of the board, is going to help you with that up and down, push and or pull chopping motion. Now, the reason I say this is super close is because there are a lot of Gyuto out there that have very flat profiles as well. So you could make the argument that depending on which Gyuto you choose, you may find that the performance is very similar for that push and or pull up and down chopping motion. But in general, Kiritsuke have a flatter profile, better for up and down, push and pull. Gyuto have a more curved profile in general, better for that rocking motion. So the edge for chopping goes to the Kiritsuke. Okay, the next point we're going to talk about is versatility and ease of use, kind of mixed into one. We're going to give the edge on this category to the Gyuto. Now, we had a tough time, Jake and I, deciding on which knife wins this category because both knives are super versatile. The reason we chose the Gyuto, though, is because of the slight curve to the blade. And we feel that the slight curve and the fact that the Gyuto is made to be the do-it-all knife means that it's going to be a little bit easier to use for more tasks than the Kiritsuke would. The Kiritsuke comes from the Japanese single-beveled version, which is meant more for sushi applications. So again, more for slicing and more for that push and or pull chopping motion. The Gyuto still performs very well at both of those tasks, and again, we would argue that it performs a little bit better or is a little bit easier to use for more tasks than the Kiritsuke is. So the edge for versatility / ease of use goes to the Gyuto.
Really rubbing that moisturizer in.
It gives me power. Okay, the next category we're going to talk about is intricate tip work, and we're going to give the edge in this category to the Kiritsuke because of the reverse tanto tip. We find that this style of tip gives the user extra clearance or travel for their guide finger, which is super important when you're doing more intricate tip work. Gives you a little bit more control over that part of the knife. We also find that the shape of this knife allows the blacksmith to sharpen it or get the bevel much, much thinner at the tip of the knife, which helps it glide through more delicate ingredients. We also find that because of the flatter profile, one doesn't have to tilt the knife up as much to get use out of the tip of their knife, which makes that style of cutting much easier. So the edge for intricate tip work goes to the Kiritsuke. Okay, so the next and final and probably least important thing that we're going to talk to you guys about today is the coolness factor. So this could encompass many things: the handle, the finish on the blade, maybe if you're really into like the heat treat of certain steels, lots of things could make a knife cool to you. And that's why we're going to give the edge to the Gyuto in this circumstance. It's not to say that the Kiritsuke isn't super cool in its own right and has features that you might prefer over the Gyuto. We just find that there is much more variation out there for the Gyuto, so you're going to be able to find knives with different finishes, different looks and feels, different steel types, different handles, whereas you might be a little bit more limited in your choices for the Kiritsuke. So once again, the edge for the coolness factor goes to the Gyuto. So there you have it, guys. The final tally is 3-3. Very, very even score. Obviously, both of these knives are super versatile, adept, and great for many things. It really just depends on your personal preference and what you plan to use the knife for. If there's anything that you felt we missed in this video and you'd like to add, just leave a comment down below. Let us know which 2 knives you want us to compare next, and we'll make a video on that coming up shortly. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more knife-related content. And until the next one, stay sharp!